Ravens fans, our front office is one of the most respected in the NFL, but even the best make mistakes. And the biggest recent mistake of the Ravens was the signing of Odell Beckham Jr. in 2023. At the time, it seemed like a bold move to provide more options for the offense, but what seemed like a great addition turned into a controversial decision. Beckham, who arrived with a lot of hype, failed to meet expectations. After a season with minimal numbers, far below what was anticipated, he left the team at the end of 2023. And now the question arises, was this signing a mistake that could have been avoided? How did this move affect the team, and what can it teach us? Stay with us until the end as we analyze everything about this signing, the impact it had, and what the Ravens need to learn from this mistake. Go Ravens! When the Ravens decided to sign Odell Beckham Jr. in the 2023 offseason, it seemed like a bold and strategic move. After inconsistent seasons from the wide receiver core, the front office wanted to show that they were committed to giving Lamar Jackson more weapons. Bringing in a big name like Beckham, even though he was coming off a full season sideline due to a knee injury, was a way to show ambition and attract attention. The contract, with $15 million guaranteed, made it clear the team was willing to pay a hefty price to give the offense a boost. But the news caught many by surprise. Odell was a player with a brilliant history, but he was already in his 30s, and his performance had been declining since 2019, with injuries piling up. Analysts questioned the cost-benefit of the signing, especially since the contract had no performance incentives. The entire value was guaranteed. This raised doubts even within the league, as the investment seemed too high for a player who hadn't shown recently that he could still be dominant. Despite the criticism, there was hope that Beckham could regain some of his old form and prove the bet was worth it. However, as the season went on, that hope started to fade, and it became more and more clear that the player's impact was not living up to what the Ravens had expected. It was exactly this underperformance that began to raise doubts about how big a mistake the front office had made. When Odell finally took the field, it was clear he was far from the player who once dominated defenses. He had a few good moments, but overall, his 35 receptions, 565 yards, and just 3 touchdowns in 14 games were not what the Ravens expected from a player with such a costly contract. In the playoffs, the situation was even more discreet, with only 4 receptions and no significant impact in the decisive games. It was hard not to wonder whether the investment had truly been justified. Looking closely, it was evident that Beckham struggled to adapt. He still displayed some skill on a few plays, but the explosiveness and agility that had defined his career were no longer. Additionally, the lack of chemistry with Lamar Jackson, coupled with an offensive system that had its own struggles, made things even more difficult. For a team that needed consistency on offense, Beckham became more of a question mark than a solution. This underperformance had direct consequences for the team and raised an important question. Could the Ravens have used that $15 million more effectively? This doubt wasn't just about the on-field impact, but also about how the contract affected the team's finances and planning for the season. Odell's contract wasn't just a high-risk bet. It was a move that tied up a significant portion of the Ravens' salary cap. With $15 million guaranteed, the team missed the opportunity to invest in other areas that also needed reinforcement, such as the offensive line, or even the depth of the defense. This decision limited the front office's flexibility and left the team more exposed in critical situations throughout the season. For a team that has always been known for its smart financial management, this move was a hard exception to justify. Moreover, Beckham's contract raised questions about the front office's priorities. By investing heavily in a veteran player with so many uncertainties surrounding, the Ravens took a risk that isn't typical of their philosophy. The financial impact wasn't confined to the 2023 season. It influenced future decisions, as the team would now have to think twice before betting on high-cost, questionable return players. The signing not only pressured the team on the field, but also highlighted the need for more caution in future negotiations. Despite all this, the Ravens' mistake wasn't as catastrophic as some other franchise decisions. This was evident in a recent analysis, which showed that, even with Beckham's signing, the Ravens were still far from making the league's biggest mistakes. Well, we're halfway through the video, but I noticed you haven't liked this video yet. It's really important so that YouTube continues recommending my content to you, and that way I can keep bringing you these insights. So, hit the like button, it's free. Thanks. Now, let's continue. When ESPN listed the biggest mistakes in the NFL over the past 5 years, the Ravens were only ranked 20th with the Beckham signing. This shows that, while the decision was questionable, it doesn't compare to far worse moves that have put other teams' futures at risk. For example, the Browns have faced constant criticism for moves that jeopardized the future of their team. In this sense, signing Odell was a slip-up, but not a disaster. This comparison reinforces that, even though they strayed from their usual standard of excellence, the Ravens still maintain a management style that avoids the most damaging mistakes. Despite Beckham's high cost and limited impact, the team didn't completely compromise its competitiveness. The ability to learn from their mistakes and avoid repeating them is what keeps the Ravens among the best managed teams. However, it's important that the front office uses this experience as a lesson for future decisions. This includes adopting safer strategies when investing in veteran players, something that will be crucial in rebuilding the wide receiver group. The signing of Odell Beckham Jr. taught the Ravens an important lesson. Betting on big names isn't always the best solution. Despite Beckham's brilliant history, it was clear that injuries and his age were red flags that should have been considered more carefully. Contracts like this, with high guaranteed values, need to be more thoroughly evaluated to protect the franchise if the player's performance doesn't meet expectations. One approach the front office could take is to use incentive-based contracts. This model allows the team to reward players based on their performance, while avoiding tying up precious resources if the expectations aren't met. Additionally, it's crucial to focus on developing young players who have more growth potential and can provide long-term results. Beckham showed flashes of his former skill, but it was clear the Ravens need to look for more consistent and sustainable solutions. With this lesson in mind, the next step for the front office will be crucial to ensure the Ravens' offense remains competitive. This includes restructuring the wide receiver group and finding players who can truly meet Lamar Jackson's needs. Beckham's departure made it clear that the Ravens' wide receiver group still has a lot of room for improvement. Despite the presence of promising young players on the roster, such as Zay Flowers, the team needs reinforcements that can bring consistency and explosiveness. With the salary cap space freed up after Beckham's departure, the Ravens now have the opportunity to invest in talents who could become key pieces of the offense in the coming years. This is the perfect time for the front office to redefine their approach and build a more solid. The connection with Lamar Jackson will be essential for the success of these new reinforcements. The Ravens' offense relies on wide receivers who can create separation, gain crucial yards, and be reliable in key moments. To achieve this, the front office can look to the draft, free agents, or even explore strategic trades that bring the balance needed to the roster. The goal is to form a group that complements Lamar's skills and elevates the offense as a whole. With a more cautious and well-planned approach, the Ravens have everything they need to transform their wide receiver core into a true force in the NFL. This evolution will be crucial for the team to reach its goals and become one of the league's offensive powerhouses once. In the end, the Ravens' decision to sign Odell Beckham Jr. proved to be an expensive mistake. While he showed flashes of talent, his numbers were far below expectations, and the team made the right choice by parting ways. The decision to sign a player coming off a long injury layoff with such a high contract ended up raising more questions than answers for the franchise. Now, the big question is, was this a one-off mistake, or should the Ravens be more cautious with similar bets in the future? What do you think about this choice? Leave your opinion in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to follow all the details about the Ravens and stay up to date with everything.